What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 3 top DFS picks.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for this week's NFL slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NFL Week 3, let's take a look at the quarterback position. I like Kyler Murray from the Arizona Cardinals playing the Detroit Lions, who give up the second most fantasy points overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Kyler Murray has averaged 30.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 10.5 rush attempts per game. He's projected at 20.7 fantasy points here in Week 3. He scored 33 fantasy points last week. He had 8 rush attempts. He's $6,800 DraftKings salary and $1,600 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 53 points scored in this game, so a super high scoring game. They have the Cardinals favored by 6. It's a fantastic matchup here, so I like Kyler Murray here versus the Detroit Lions. The other quarterback that I like is Ben Roethlisberger from the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Houston Texans, who have the 8th worst defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing quarterbacks. Ben Roethlisberger has averaged 22.2 fantasy points per game on the season. He's getting 3 rush attempts per game. He's healthy now. Big Ben is back. He's projected at 17 fantasy points here in Week 3. He's $6,400 DraftKings salary and $1,100 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 45 points scored in this game, with the Steelers favored by 5.5. So I like Ben Roethlisberger here versus the Houston Texans. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. I like Miles Sanders from the Philadelphia Eagles playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Miles Sanders scored 21.1 fantasy points in his debut in Week 2, off of 20 rush attempts and 7 pass targets. He was on the field for 79% of the snaps, touched the ball 49% of that time. He's projected at 15.1 fantasy points here in Week 3. He's $6,400 DraftKings salary and $1,000 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 46 points scored in this game. They have the Eagles favored by 6.5. I think the Eagles finally get a win here. I think Miles Sanders gets a ton of work on the ground. It's a great matchup for him here in Week 3. So I like Miles Sanders here versus the Cincinnati Bengals. The other running back that I like is Melvin Gordon from the Denver Broncos playing the Tampa Bay Bucks, who have a good defense overall, but they give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Melvin Gordon has averaged 16.5 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 17 rush attempts per game and 3 pass targets per game. He's been on the field for 72% of the snaps. He's touched the ball 41% of that time, projected at 14.6 fantasy points here in Week 3. He's $5,800 DraftKings salary and $700 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 43.5 points scored in this game, and they do have the Broncos trailing by 6, but Melvin Gordon can get involved in the passing game, so I'm not worried about the game script here. It looks like Phillip Lindsay is going to be out for Week 3, or he's doubtful for Week 3. Keep an eye on that, but I expect Melvin Gordon to get the bulk of the work here again. So I like Melvin Gordon here versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. Okay, who do we have at the wide receiver position? I like DK Metcalf from the Seattle Seahawks playing the Dallas Cowboys, who have the 7th worst defense overall
and they give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. DK Metcalf has averaged 19.4 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7 targets per game, and he's been on the field for 99% of the snaps. He touches the ball 11% of that time, projected at 13.8 fantasy points here in week 3. He's $6,500 DraftKings salary and the same price on FanDuel. So I like that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 45 points scored in this game, with the Seattle Seahawks favored by 5.5. I think there's going to be more points scored. I think this is going to be a super high scoring game here. So I think this is a nice game to stack. It's a fantastic matchup. This guy's always getting end zone targets. So I like DK Metcalf here versus the Dallas Cowboys.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL. MLB is still going. NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
The other wide receiver I like is Julian Edelman from the New England Patriots, playing the Las Vegas Raiders, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They've been middle-of-the-pack defending opposing wide receivers. Julian Edelman has averaged 21 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 9 targets per game. He's been on the field for 65% of the snaps, touched the ball 21% of that time. He's projected at 12.7 fantasy points here in week 3, but he scored 29 fantasy points off of 11 pass targets last game. He is definitely their number 1 receiver. Cam Newton looks like he's passing the ball pretty well. Vegas thinks there's going to be 47 points scored in this game, with the Patriots trailing by 3. So it's a high-scoring game, a close game, a competitive game. Could be a passing game script. Cam Newton may be forced to pass the ball down the field. So I like Julian Edelman here versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. I like Hayden Hurst from the Atlanta Falcons, playing the Chicago Bears, who have a good defense overall, but they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing tight ends. Hayden Hurst has averaged 12.5 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.5 pass targets per game. He's been on the field for 72% of the snaps, touched the ball 12% of the time. He scored 18 fantasy points off of 8 pass targets last week, and he's projected at 10.1 fantasy points here in week 3. He's $4,700 DraftKings salary and $1,000 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 47 points scored in this game, with the Falcons favored by 3. So pretty high scoring game, competitive game. So I like Hayden Hurst here versus the Chicago Bears. And if you're looking for a value play, I like Mo Alley-Cox from the Indianapolis Colts, playing the New York Jets, who have the 9th worst defense overall, and they give up the 12th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Mo Alley-Cox, he got the start last week. He's been averaging 11.6 fantasy points per game on the season, off of an average of 4 pass targets per game, but he did just get the start last week, and he scored 19 fantasy points off of 6 pass targets. His projection's a little bit low here, only projected at 6.6 fantasy points here in week 3, but he's only $3,800 DraftKings salary and $1,200 more on FanDuel. So he's low salary. I'm going to ride this hot hand and see if he can do it again here in week 3. Vegas thinks there's going to be 44.5 points scored in this game, with the Colts favored by 9.5. So I like Mo Alley-Cox here versus the New York Jets.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite
Player for this NFL slate.
I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.